Guys, Dan Hendriksen here. We are down at St Mellion Golf Club today. We're doing a little series out on the golf course with Will, my brother, and James Ruth. Will's going off to tour school, and we thought we'd do a little series on that. I will put a little link in the description down below with regards to that series if you haven't already seen that. We're out here on the Kerno course. We're out here on one of the greens that they don't now use. It's one of the old greens, and we thought we'd do a couple of videos out here regarding putting. Now, I have over the years got a little on the stroppy side when I've been putting. So if I miss a putt, I might get a little bit stroppy. And my brother kind of laughs at me when I do that because he uses a thing called strokes gained, which is basically a percentage. So every time he's playing golf, he's tapping in all the numbers that he has with regards to his putting, and then it gives him a percentage of what his expectancy is to hold those putts. He can go into it with a bit more detail for you, but let's go over there and have a chat with him and just see what this strokes gained on putting is all about. Strokes gained with putting. Now, You don't use necessarily strokes gained for the whole golf bag, do you? But you do always plumb in all your putts as you've gone on from a round of golf, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about it.
Well, the reason why I did it is I had a lot of people come up to me saying, oh, you're a great putter, or you putted well today, or you're a bad putter, or you've not putted well today. And it's difficult as the player to actually evaluate how you've putted because you're so emotionally attached to the actual putts and what your score you're trying to shoot, etc. So it's very difficult to get a gauge as to how well you've putted. The putts per green is a useless stat really for trying to gauge your putting, because if you chip in or you hold a really long putt, it just messes up those whole stats. So the best way I think to do it is to use something called strokes gained, and it's a great way of tracking your own putting and giving yourself a score of how you've putted for the day. And also it's a great way of learning how your expectations should be on certain putts. And I think that's something we're gonna try and cover today, is the expectation levels of what you should be holding and what you shouldn't necessarily be expecting to hold.
Because over the years you've witnessed me get a little bit upset in certain situations when I've missed a putt or three putted, and my expectation levels are very high, and then when obviously I miss that putt, you can see my sort of emotions come out with regards to that putt, and it makes you chuckle, or has made you chuckle in the past. So so I want to go into it in a bit more detail today, because I want to see what actually my expectations are for that particular putt, what percentage, what chance I've got of holding that putt from those different distances.
Yeah, really important. Right, Dan, I've set up 4 putts here, all at different distances. I've got here, it's 3 foot.
Yeah.
This one here is 8 foot. This one here is 14 foot.
Yeah.
And the one down the bottom there, that's 34 foot.
34 feet, is it?
So
okay.
They're at those distances for a reason, but I'll come on to that in a minute. But if I get you, what I want you to do is I want you to sort of go over to the putts, have a feel for them, and think what, in your head, are you expecting to hold those putts? What's your thoughts on those putts?
This first one here at 3 feet, I mean, to be honest with you, it's a right half putt. There's hardly any movement in that at all. So I would expect to hold that. Okay. Like 10 times out of 10, I'm expecting to hold that putt.
So you're 10 times out of 10 for that one?
Yeah, I think this should be 100% chance of me holding that.
Don't worry about the line, because the line doesn't affect the numbers. From 8 foot?
From 8 foot, 7 or 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Is that a bit high, 7? Let's say it's 7. 8 out of 10 is a lot. 7 definitely. I think out of 10 I would miss that 3 times, yeah.
Okay.
14 now. This is what, 14 feet?
14 feet.
I would like to think that I would hold half of those. I'd like to think I'd hold 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe 4. Maybe 4. Between 4 and 5.
And then from down here at 34 foot.
To hold this putt.
34 foot.
To hold this putt.
Yeah. How many out of 10?
1.
1 out of 10.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, probably 1 out of 10.
So if I bring you back up here now, if we go back through the percentages on strokes gained of you holding these putts, and this is based on the tour players, okay, so it's going to be different for amateurs, etc., but the only stats you've got are from tour.
Yeah.
It's 95% from 3 foot, so there's a high percentage from there.
So I said 100%, didn't I?
So
it's actually 95.
Yeah,
so there's
not
a good
far away.
No, not far at all.
That's not far away. Here you said 7 to 8, so let's say you're saying 75%.
Yeah.
it's actually 49%.
So this is half the. This is the length where I would get a little bit, possibly a little stroppy over.
This is a good
Quite
number.
emotional with this one.
This is where actually you should be expecting to two putt more than one putt, because it's 51% of two putts and 49% of holding it.
Yeah.
So there's a massive. That's a massive point.
Yeah, that
really
is a big point, isn't it?
And that's why I've put that one there. Here, from 14 foot, you said, what did you say again?
I
50%?
said between, I said between 4 and 5. By the time I walked away, it was about 45%.
Okay, so this is 25%.
25%, so 2 out of 10, roughly.
Yeah, so
2 and a bit out of 10.
75% of the time you're going to be two putting it.
75% of the time I'm missing, aren't I?
Yeah.
Wow, I would not have expected that either.
We come to here. You weren't far off with this. You were 1 out of 10. So that's the actual number for this is 6%.
Is it?
But more interesting is that the percentage of you three putting is 7%. So
Wow.
actually, from 34 foot on tour,
Yeah.
you're more likely to three putt than you are to hole it, which is really important. That is quite.
So yeah, if I stood up here and three putted,
Yeah.
Angry Dan would pop out. And you've seen that in many situations. And I'm not a great putter from this distance. Like, I would say that my distance control is pretty poor. And this is where I would actually three putt a little bit from here. But I have, and you've seen it on camera, you know, I did it against you two at Thurleston on the last. This was about the same length, maybe a bit longer, and I've holed a few of those on camera. So, but I have three putted in tournament golf. I would three putt this occasionally, frustratingly.
But I think you've got to in your head be happy with a two putt from here, and I think that's where a lot of people, and this is where this is quite important to know these numbers, because a lot of people's expectations are way higher than what the actual strokes gained are.
So let's take practicing then. So people watching this that like they're practicing of putting, because there's a lot of people out there that enjoy putting. It's an easy thing to do because they can just go up to the clubhouse, they can have a drink, and they can go out and do some putting.
Yeah.
Like, where should we really be putting from? Like, where should all the practice be done? Because do I really need to go out and practice that? Because let's be honest, that's really pace putting. And that's going to change from round to round at your home club, because they're going to cut and not cut, things like that. Different times of the day. And obviously if you come to a different golf course, you're going to get different pace of greens as well. So practicing that, is that really helping, like practice putting from that?
I think that the best way that I would do it would be to spend majority of your time inside 8 foot. If you had, I don't know, if you had an hour you were going to spend of putting, I'd be spending 45 minutes inside 8 foot, because this is where it's make or break. If you can get your stats up similar numbers between 1 to 8 foot that the tour guys have, you're going to be a really good putter. Because if you're holding good numbers from inside here, your longer putts don't have to be as good, because
it takes pressure off because you're good from this area. Absolutely.
And I think once you get beyond here, I think it's quite important that once you get beyond 8 feet, you need to then start actually putting into your head that two putts isn't too bad, and if you do miss, it's not going to be the end of the world, and you shouldn't start then blaming your putting stroke and getting down on yourself, because I think from this distance, it then, as you just touched on, it becomes a case of speed. Get it within inside your 3 foot circle, because that's 95%. I think 2 foot is 99%. So if you get anything within inside the 2 foot circle, you know, you're pretty much guaranteed a two putt. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is their expectations are too high on the putting, and therefore it then becomes a psychological problem, because they're expecting to hole and they get down on themselves. They think they're a bad putter, when actually, you know, that if they actually looked at their stats properly, they maybe find out that they're not too bad at all.
No, I agree. Yeah. Well, that is quite. To be fair, it's quite an eye opener for me. And actually now standing over certainly this putt, which I think is the key putt from really for today, is to stand up here thinking that I've actually, you know, there's a 50% chance of me missing this statistically on tour. Best players in the world. If they're going to miss this 50% of the time, I actually feel like there's a bit of pressure taken off me from this putt. Because I'm standing over it, and my expectation levels are not quite as high as what where I was before I listened to what you just said there. Very interesting.
It is, and there are strokes gains apps out there now that you can use for not just putting but the rest of your game as well. But I think anyone who wants to know if they're a good putter or not, can't get a true reflection until they've done this.
No.
They you know, you're just judging on what other people tell you, and I've had people say I'm the best putter they've ever played with.
Yeah,
I've had
yeah,
other people say if you could putt, you'd be
on tour.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And you kind of in your head you start thinking, well, am I a good putter? I don't know if I'm a good putter. This is
So
the only way
you've
you'll find
actually, instead of listening to what other people say, you've actually taken it under
Yeah.
your own control
Yeah.
and start to measure out your own, you know, performance for yourself. So in your own mind, you know exactly where you are. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. You know exactly where you are with regards to your statistics that you bring home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, what an insight that was, just having a chat there with Paul about the strokes gained, sort of things that he's doing with regards to his putting. I'd like to hear what you think about that, because there's lots of people out there that are using strokes gained apps, and are you using it to help you with your overall game, and are you using it for your putting? I'd like to hear what you have to say, and also what drills you do. So do you practice long distance putting? Do you practice more from 8 foot? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing, and as always, stay safe, and we'll catch up with you again soon.